Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. I hope your day is amazing. Let's talk about how do you increase revenues in your daily life or in your sales team's life? How do you do it predictably? And what do you measure? What do you not measure? So I'm going to give you some metrics to measure. If you're a company that owns a sales team, just apply these metrics on a daily basis and hold accountability to them, and you will watch your numbers go up. If you are a solo entrepreneur, maybe you're a consultant listening to this, same thing. Apply these daily numbers and hold accountability to this on a daily basis, and your numbers will go up. So what's the first metric you want to measure? The first metric you want to pay attention to is the number of outreaches you're making. What does that mean? That means how many outbound reaches. Now, let's say you have inbound leads and you're reaching back out to them. That's an outbound, right? Let's say you're picking the phone up and you're making cold calls. Yep, they still work when you know how to do them. So whatever it is that you're outreaching, a networking meeting, or you are just doing something to make sure that you are going outbound with the activity. Now, you measure those numbers. You literally track them, right? So you write down every time you do it. Oh, did it today, did it this time. Okay, I have 10. All right. Now, if we increase that number, let's say by 20%, you will see something start to happen. What's the next thing you want to measure? Well, you want to measure how many times you're connecting with those people. In other words, there are so many people that say, well, I picked up the phone and I made these calls and I only connected with, 5 people. Okay. So what do we do to get that from 5 to say 10, right? Because if we can double the connections, we double the conversations and we start to double up on certain things. Now you'll understand over time that these metrics that I'm talking about, they will stack on one another. So if you go from the outreaches and the connections, you're looking for maybe positive connections. You're maybe even going to measure that. What are the responses? Because if you're measuring the positive responses and you're getting too many negative responses, what is that telling you? You may not have the ideal right fit buyer. You may be in the wrong market. Your messaging might be off. See, all of these measurements of the metrics will tell a story. So we're going to first go the outbound reaches, then we're going to go to the connects, then we're going to go to the responses. And then once we go from those responses, we want to go from that to how many appointments are being set, right? How many appointments are coming out of the activity that you're doing? Again, if we can get an incremental increase on these metrics and we're measuring them, we're holding accountability to these metrics, what you're going to see is these metrics start to stack on each time you're doing this on one another, and then you're going to start to get a compounding effect out of this process. All right, so now we went to the appointments. What's the next ratio? Well, you can decide that, but I would say if you're just keeping this kind of straight out, let's just measure some gross metrics here. How about the number of closes that are coming out of metrics that you're measuring on the appointments? In other words, I did 10 appointments and I closed 2. Okay, great. You've got a 20% close rate, right? So from the number of outreaches to the close rate would be called a conversion rate. So how many close rates are we getting now from the appointments to the actual close, right? Because you're talking to people, you're presenting with people, you're doing whatever you do. You measure that. And a lot of people, this is where they make the mistake. They look at the close rate and they go, oh, geez, let's improve the close rate. But when you improve the close rate, you're only working on one metric. And that's not a bad thing. If you can get your close rate from 20 to 25%, you've got an increase in your revenue. But when you stack all of these metrics, you get a compounding increase in that number, which leads to huge numbers when you start to move this out over a period of time. What I want you to be thinking about is, I learned this from Alan Weiss, if you go 1% better a day at something, over 70 days, you get twice as good at that, right? Statistically. Now I did that out for the year. It's like 37, 36, 37x, right? You're so much better when you're just staying with this process and you're measuring it. Okay, so we got to the closes. What's next? Well, what about your follow-up closes? Do you know most people don't follow up? It is crazy how many people don't follow up. They go do all this work. They have a meeting. They sit down. It doesn't close. They just drop the relationship. And it doesn't mean the relationship won't buy from you. It just means you've got to continue to follow up. Not everybody's ready to go right now on the process, but people don't have a system around follow-up. That's why we built Vibitno, our SaaS platform. And so what are your follow-up close rates? Again, if you're closing 20% and then you're following up and you're closing 10% more, what does that tell you? Tells me you might have to build some more value into the conversation that you're having prior to. It might also tell me that you're dealing with a market that takes its time. There's all kinds of things that might be going on, but the story will reveal itself as you go along. All right. So we're at follow-up closes. Next metric, increasing the transactional value. What does that mean? Getting more at the time of sale. So let's say that you sell something and it's $30,000 or whatever the number is for you. Maybe it's $130,000. If we get that $130,000 to $140,000 on every single sale, and you can do this by adding things on, right? You can do this by cross-selling items. You can do this through different methodologies. But let's say we could get an average bump. Maybe it's not 130 to 140, but it's 130 to 132, right? You get an extra $2,000 a sale. Let's say your company is selling 1,000 of these, right? There's $2,000 times 100,000, or 1,000, excuse me. But run the numbers is what I'm trying to tell you, right? So now, so you got your transactional value increase. And now from that, how are we spawning new business out of this? In other words, how are you doing on the referrals? That's the next metric you want to actually measure. So we've increased the transactional value. Now, let's say we, on average, got one referral. And I will tell you, if you get one referral per sale, you are doing way better than most companies are doing, because most companies aren't getting referrals. They're not asking. They don't have an active program around doing it. So what do? They just sort of like, whenever it happens, right? But what if we could get one or two referrals every single time we sold something? Well, what does that do for you? Firstly, it increases your profitability, because what does it cost you to get a referral in most cases? Nothing, right? Isn't that a beautiful thing, right? Let's say your cost of acquisition per client, I don't know, pick a number, 500, 1,000, $5,000. Let's say that now you're spending $5,000 to get a client through traditional methodology that you're using. But now you got a referral and it costs you nothing. What happens to that $5,000? Doesn't go away. It goes right into your pocket. That's profit, right? You're not spending the money out on the marketing side. So what about the increase in referrals? Are we measuring it? Are we holding people accountable? Are we training people to do this? Most companies are not. Next metric, the buying frequency. In other words, I got them to buy once. What about the next time? In other words, if you're not staying in touch with people, follow up, you're probably going to miss out on the buying frequency. In other words, are you there? And only when they go, oh my gosh, I need something, and they go back to you, or worse yet, they go to your competitor, or worse yet, your competitor walks in and they buy from the competitor when they would have bought from you, because you haven't been in touch, let's say. If you do that and you stay in touch and they buy from you every single time, but instead of it being kind of an inactive program, we make it an active program where we can predictably see, okay, they're going to buy from us 5 times, 6 times in the buying cycle, and we can increase that by, let's say, 2 more times. What happens to your numbers? What happens to your profitability? Excuse me. Think about it for a second. If you could get people to buy from you 2 more times without you having to market to them, without you having to come up with the money that initially you had to come up with to get them to buy from you, that is it's a huge profit, right? It's a much higher profit process for you bringing it in. So it's not just about building your revenue, but you're building your profits along the process. All right. The next metric is your speed to close. What does that mean? Well, let's say your normal sales cycle takes 2 months. If we can bring that down to 6 weeks, we've increased your speed to close by 2 weeks, right? I mean, we actually compressed the speed to close. Well, why does that give you more revenue? Because it gives you more prospecting time. Let's say you use that time, that extra 2 weeks, right? Time, and you go out and now you're increasing your outreaches, you're increasing your connections, you're increasing your responses, you're increasing your appointments, you're increasing all of the close rate, all the metrics we just talked about. You're going outbound, 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 outbound. And you can do this much more than you could before because you now have time to be able to do this. Then you are going to make more money. It's that simple, right? It's the metrics. The last metric is we want to improve the lead quality. Now, those of you who have been listening to this show forever hear me say, what is your ideal right fit buyer? Who is that person who buys from you the easiest, gives you the most money, is not a hassle to work with, that is accessible, that you can close, with a high percentage? Who is that person that is just looking for you? Who's that group? How many are there, right? You're hearing this over and over throughout these podcasts when you're listening to them. If we can increase that quality of that lead, I want you to think of leads this way. Lead, marketing qualified lead, sales qualified lead, sales ready lead, purchase order ready lead. If we're dumping all our money, I'm working with a company right now. They're dumping all of their money and they're generating leads. I mean, and these leads are just leads. Like they're low intent leads. Their sales team's going crazy right now because they're just like, we can't close more than 1 out of 100 of these leads coming through. And, the type of leads that when people are calling, hi, I'm calling upon, stop calling me, click, those type of leads. It's a very, and I don't care how confident you are as a sales individual, you could be the best closer on the earth. If you have the leads like that, and you're not going to close them either. You might, or if you're the best closer on the earth, you might get 2 out of 100, but it beats up on your psyche. It's just how we are as human beings. But if you can improve that lead quality, so now that instead of 1 out of 10, we can get 5 out of 10, it's still going to be kind of a hassle, but it's a much easier day. Now, if we can get that 1 out of 10 to 10%, well, that sales team would be overjoyed, right? And so wouldn't you as the owner, because you're not throwing out all this money, that you're not getting back. Also, your retention on your sales team is going to be much higher. You won't churn and burn them. Now, what if we can get that 1% to 25%? I mean, that's a big jump. But one of the ways you do this is you've got to be able to improve the lead quality. And you've got to be able to get the sales team to be able to get the leads when they're between at least somewhere around sales qualified, right? Marketing ready to sales qualified at a minimum. But if we can do this and we can repeat this process over and over and over on all of these metrics, and here's the most important thing for you, whether you're a solo, you're a company owner of a small team, or you're a major corporation that has, thousands of people, you got to hold accountability to these metrics on a daily basis. That means they got to measure these. They've got to look at the numbers, and you've got to study what's going on within that and make the tweaks from that process. The other thing that you want to do is you must train people on this. So many people are not training people on this. And what ends up happening is it's a great idea for people, but they just don't get that into play. It's that simple. Now, if you want help on and around designing these for your company, you want to see how much money you can bring into your company, get back to me personally at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com. Just reach out to me and we'll set down an appointment and we can I'll show you in the numbers, how you can grow your company using these metrics and other types of metrics. It works. It's predictable. It's mathematical. I don't know why more people don't do this, but anyways, they don't. And so you have this information now. Now, as always, don't go just like, this was a great bit of information. That was awesome. Why don't you take this and study it, right? This has been proven over years, decades, literally, to work. So it hasn't changed 20 years ago if we did this. to today, it still works. And so make this part of your routine. And again, if you're like, yeah, you know what, I want to do this, but I can't get all this done, reach out to me at Doug at ceosalesstrategies.com. Doesn't matter what size company you are, these metrics work and we'll help you get there. All right. So either myself or one of my team members can help you. That's it. So please, if you found this episode to be valuable, please take a few minutes, go up and give it a positive 5-star review. I'd be forever grateful. The more reviews we get out there, the more people listen to these things, the more people we help. That's why we did this podcast in the first place. And that's it for today's episode. As always, go out and sell something, but sell win-win-win. They win, you win, someone else wins. Make somebody else's day happy as well, because there are people out there that are just looking for what you do, and so you can help them. They either have a problem or they're looking to get a goal. And there's an opportunity that came up, and you can be the person that helps make their day so much happier than it is today. But remember, hold your margins. You don't have to discount down. If you're discounting too much, again, reach out to me at Doug at ceosalesstrategies.com. And let's have a conversation, because you're in high probability your ideal right fit buyer is not on, or your value proposition that they perceive as value is off in the messaging. All right. Until next time, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast saying, to your success.